Hello, wrestling fans. AEW All Out 2021 has been the buzz of the wrestling world for the past 24 hours or so. On the buy-in pre-show, we have a 10-man tag team match as we see representing the Jurassic Express, Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy join forces with representing the Best Friends, Orange Cassidy, Chuck Taylor, and Wheeler Yuta, as they did battle with the Hardy Family Office, Matt Hardy, Private Party, Jack Evans, and Angelico. As the faces were coming to the ring, somebody held up at a sign in the crowd that was seen on camera. It said, "Jurassic times call for Jurassic measures." Luchasaurus hits Jack Evans with a wheelbarrow suplex. There was one point there was a bunch of them in the ring, and they all were doing submission spots, or a centipede as they call it, but Luchasaurus broke that up, knocking everybody around like bowling pins. Orange Cassidy hit some great Hurricanranas, or Orange Canranas, while with his hands in his pockets. Eventually, Jungle Boy on Luchasaurus's shoulders, and I forgot who was on somebody's shoulders from the heel team, and they had a chicken fight. Eventually, Jungle Boy puts Angelico in the snare trap, which is the STF, and Angelico tapped out, enabling the faces to be victorious. But then the Butcher, tag team partner of the Blade, had come to the ring, and he had returned after being out of action for months due to an injury. He attacks Orange Cassidy, and the heels do a number on him until finally the rest of his team come back to the ring to save him. Now, off to the main show. We start out with Eddie Kingston challenging Miro for the TNT Championship. Kingston hits Miro in the corner with a bunch of Kobashi machine gun chops. Then eventually hits Miro with an exploder suplex. Kingston hits a Saito suplex, or a backdrop driver. He hits a spinning back fist as well as a DDT. Miro eventually, while having the referee in the corner, hits Kingston with a low kick, a roundhouse kick, and what we call the Machka kick. Miro pinned Kingston to retain the TNT Championship. Next up, we see Jon Moxley go one-on-one with Satoshi Kojima. They start out with a chop fest in the middle of the ring, followed by a slug fest. Kojima hits machine gun chops on Moxley. Moxley gives Kojima a superplex. There was a DDT on the apron. That's always a sick bump. Moxley had an armbar on Kojima. Kojima hits Moxley with a brain buster. Moxley hit a German suplex. Moxley hits Kojima with a rebound lariat a la Nigel McGuinness. Eventually, the end came when Moxley hit two paradigm shifts. That Dirty Deeds DDT was known for, and pinned him to win the match. But then, all of a sudden, his music stops, and out comes Minoru Suzuki. He brawls with Moxley, and then he eventually puts Moxley down with a Gotch-style pile driver. Now, I was watching this with fellow NYWCites, and Sam was having a virtual cream fest when Suzuki had come out. Should have seen the way he acted. Damn. Then it was time for the Women's Championship match, as the Best Friends, Chris Statlander, accompanied the ring by Orange Cassidy, challenged Dr. Britt Baker, accompanied the ring by Rebel and Jamie Hayter, Hayter. Statlander nearly botched a superplex, nearly dropping Baker. Statlander had missed a 450 splash from the top rope. She also missed a moonsault off the apron. She eventually puts Baker in a spider crab, which is some sort of submission hold. The end came when Baker hits Canadian Destroyer on Statlander, followed by the Lockjaw, which is the submission move, and Baker retained the Women's Championship. Then it was time for the Steel Cage match, in which the Young Bucks defended the Tag Team Championship against the Lucha Bros. And here they're going. There were Enziguri in the corner. Nick Jackson hits a backstabber on Penta. Cerro Viejo. Penta hits 2 sling blades. There was an Ace Crusher party as they were hitting each other with Ace Crushers. Nick German suplexes Ray Phoenix on the apron. That's a sick bump. Matt hit, like, kicked both Penta and Phoenix in the groin. The Bucks pressed Phoenix over their heads and threw him into the cage like a human dart. Eventually, Brandon Cutler, who stayed at ringside for this match, tossed a bag over the steel cage into the ring. Matt Jackson opened up the bag, and it was a new Nike sneaker with thumbtacks on the bottom of it, and Matt Jackson licked the tacks, and when I saw him do that, I yelled freak, and the crowd chanted, "You sick fuck" at him for that. Hashtag tacky Nike. Penta and Matt both hit package pile drivers on each other's respective partner. Penta hit a top rope Canadian Destroyer on Matt Jackson. The Lucha Brothers hit a package pile driver where Ray Phoenix did a stomp from the top rope. And the end came with like a spike package pile driver, and the Lucha Brothers won the Tag Team Championship in the Steel Cage match. Now I forgot to mention the tacky Nike at one point was used on Penta, and I think it was used on Nick Jackson, and both of them ended up bleeding. At one point in the match, there was a spot where the Bucks tried to unmask the Lucha Brothers, and I think like the masks were already ripped, so sadly those guys will wear they will not wear those masks again, unfortunately. And especially Penta's was a nice mask he had on. Then it was time for the Women's Casino Battle Royal, where the winner would receive a shot at the Women's Championship at a later date. Okay, representing the clubs were Hiroku Shida, Sky Blue, Emi Sakura, The Bunny, and Abaddon. Then it was time for the Diamonds to come out, was Anna Jay, Kiera Hogan, Kylan King, Diamante, and Nyla Rose. The Hearts, Thunder Rosa, Penelope Ford, Rio, Jamie Hayter, and Big Swole. The Spades, Ty Conti, Red Velvet, Legit Layla Hirsch, Jade Cargill, and Rebel. And finally out came the Joker, which was not a surprise to most, Ruby Soho, who was known as Ruby Riott in the WWE. It came down to Ruby Soho and Thunder Rosa at the end, and Ruby Soho won the Casino Battle Royal, and she'll get a shot at the Women's Championship in the future. Oh my gosh. Next up, we have the Chris Jericho taking on MJF, where if MJF wins, Jericho would have to retire. And at the beginning, they had a mockery of Jericho's old Y2J video, and a countdown to 0, and basically trolled everybody, and because up on the screen it said Jericho's last match, and out came MJF, and Jericho comes out, and there's this a guitarist playing an instrumental version of the Fozzy song Judas, but the crowd was singing anyway. And the match was on, early going. MJF decided to wipe himself with Jericho's jacket. He ripped a sign from somebody in the crowd, and that got him like 2 sights for the bird watchers from the front row fans. They eventually brawled in the crowd. Jericho hits an underhook backbreaker. There was a pile driver on the apron. I forgot who hit the move. Jericho was out on the floor. He powerbombed MJF on the apron. That's always a sick bump. Eventually, Wardlow comes out, but then he's stopped by Jake Hager, and they're brawling. I forgot who. Somebody took a super bomb. I can't remember, but at one point, MJF hits Jericho with the Judas effect, which is a spinning back elbow, and he gets on top of the pin him. Referee Aubrey Edwards, she gets down to make the count, and she misses Jericho's foot on the rope, and she calls for the bell, declares MJF the winner, but out comes referee Paul Turner, and not only does he tell Edwards, but also tells ring announcer Justin Roberts, and at the moment Roberts announces to the crowd that Jericho's foot on the ropes, the crowd erupted, and MJF had this look on his face and say, "Oh no, I'm fucked." And the match was restarted, and eventually Jericho puts the walls of Jericho on MJF, and he taps out, and Chris Jericho wins the match to pretty much help his career go on. Next up, we saw Darby Allin, accompanied to the ring by Sting, go one-on-one with CM Punk in Punk's first match in years. Punk was wearing long tights, and I guess the ring rust was apparent, because it was a very slow pace in this matchup. There was a slow start. Punk had Darby Allin a bow and arrow submission hold. Darby eventually hits a stunner and a code red. Punk hits a go to sleep, but Darby ends up out on the floor. Darby hit like a senton from the top rope to the floor. He tries to go for the coffin drop off the middle rope, but he missed. Punk hits Darby with the GTS and pins him to win the match. After it ended, Sting comes out. He and Punk shake hands, and they both help Darby, check on Darby, and Darby gets up, and Darby kind of leans on Sting. Next up, we see QT Marshall, accompanied to the ring by Nick Comoroto and Aaron Solo, go one-on-one with No More BS Paul White. Of course, this was the match that I expected to be the dud of the show. And I feel bad for both of these men, because I thought this match would have gone on much sooner in the card. Paul White, well, we knew him as the Big Show. He brings QT to the corner, hits those massive chops with that big hand of his. QT eventually gets the advantage with a chop block to the knee. Not even interference by Aaron Solo and Nick Comoroto could help, as Comoroto took a big punch and a spear from Paul. Paul chopped Solo in the chest, and eventually he gives QT Marshall the chokeslam and pins him to win the matchup. Then it was main event time, as Impact Champion Christian Cage challenged Kenny Omega for the AEW World Championship. Omega accompanied the ring by Don Callis, all decked out in pink. Early in the match, Kenny Omega hits a Hurricane Rana on Christian. They go out to the floor. Omega takes a table out from under the ring, puts it over Christian's body, and Omega leaps from the apron and stomps the table, which was on top of Christian, and the table did break. Also out on the floor, Omega comes up. He like launched himself off the floor on top of the guardrail, but then he somehow slipped, and thankfully he didn't hurt himself. He landed on his feet after he slipped, and he turned around. And he made this face as if made this face, which will probably end up a meme somewhere on social media someday. But he eventually made good on that as he eventually hits a moonsault off the top of the guardrail. Back in the ring, Christian hit a Hurricane Rana as well as that reverse DDT he's known for. Omega hit, I think, 2 Snapdragon suplexes. Christian hit a spear off the apron, putting Kenny through a table, which was set up by Kenny earlier in the match. Christian hits Omega with a spear to his back and then a spear to his front. Don Callis eventually, you see him on camera calling to the back, and out come the Good Brothers, Carl Anderson and Gallows. Gallows, at one point, he's holding Christian while Callis is distracted referee. Omega goes for his V-trigger knee strike, but he accidentally hits Gallo, knocking him off the apron. Christian hits the kill switch, but Omega kicked out of that. He puts Omega in the corner, tries for a super kill switch off the top rope, but instead Omega counters and hits an avalanche one-winged angel off the top rope, pins Christian to retain the championship. Eventually, Brandon Cutler comes out, and I believe the Young Bucks, who were still banged up from the cage match, you can see they're limping as they're walking to the ring, and they're all attacking Christian after the match, and I don't understand this. Why every time there's always a post-match beatdown, no matter what promotion it is, they're ringing the bell. I mean, you're not going to solve anything by ringing the bell. It's not going to make them stop. And even Jim Ross, you can hear on commentary say, "God damn it, enough!" Eventually, the Jurassic Express, Marco Stunt, Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus, they come out and they try to save the day, but they get beat down upon. Omega takes the microphone and basically, I forget most of his promo, but Omega says the only people that can match up to him are either not here, they're tired, or they're already dead, which caused a big "oh" from the crowd. Am I alone when I say, Omega went too far by saying they're already dead, that anyone that can match up with him? I don't know about the rest of you, but I think that he went too far saying that, especially with the way the crowd reacted too. While he's talking, there are yes chants from the crowd. The lights go out. The camera zoomed on the entrance, and up on the screen we see a logo for Adam Cole, former NXT champion, former NXT North America champion. He's former Ring of Honor champion on 2 occasions, I believe. And he comes out, and he's about to look like he's going to go at it with Omega, but Adam Cole super kicks Jungle Boy, and they all have a big-ass hug. Both Young Bucks kiss Adam Cole on the cheek. And I forgot, Adam was talking, and then he gave the microphone back to Omega, and eventually Bryan Danielson, former Daniel Bryan, he hits the ring, and they're going at it with the Elite, but before that happens, Omega bails from the ring while Danielson and the Jurassic Express, I think Danielson eventually hits a running knee strike on Nick Jackson, and I think they also helped Christian back to his feet. And, basically a memorable night for All Elite Wrestling. But I have to say, placement of the card, I mean, like I said, Paul White, QT Marshall. I wish, I feel bad for both of them because nobody really expected that match to be any good. They only went like 3 minutes and change, and, they went on right before the main event, between Punk and the main event. Punk, I don't know, the ring rust was apparent. Hopefully, he'll have more ring time. I don't know if we'll get a Punk Sting match eventually. The 10-man tag participates on the buy-in pre-show. I guess it's safe to say they got lucky to be on the show because originally Andrade I'm sorry, I can't even pronounce. It's Andrade El Idolo. I apologize if I mispronounced that name. Was going to face Pac one-on-one, but they said the match had to be taken off the show due to travel restrictions on. I guess Pac couldn't get out of England or wherever he lives. Because Andrade and Chavo Guerrero Jr., they were seen in the back and they were interviewed by somebody. So, because initially the Casino Battle Royal, the Women's Casino Battle Royal, that was going to be the pre-show, but due to the Pac and Andrade match being taken off the show, those ladies got lucky, pretty much, as did the men from the 10-man tag that replaced the Women's Casino Battle Royal on the buy-in pre-show. As far as the TNT title match to open up the show, I don't know. Kingston and Miro, I don't think they didn't seem to click that much. And truth be told, I think Eddie Kingston doesn't need a championship. I mean, he challenged Jon Moxley for the world title last year, failed to win it. Back at Double or Nothing in May, Kingston teamed with Moxley to challenge the Young Bucks for the tag team titles. They failed to win them. And now Kingston challenged Miro for the TNT title, and he failed to win that. Moxley Kojima, I don't know what went wrong there. I mean, I expected more in that matchup, so maybe the two of them didn't click as well as I expected them to. Women's title was good. I enjoyed that. Would have been nice if the ladies had a little more time in that matchup. Steel Cage was everything we expected and more, and I forgot to mention, deep in the match, Rey Fenix climbed to the top of the cage and hit a dive from the top of the cage all the way on both Young Bucks. And by the way, that was a very nice steel cage that AEW has. Hopefully they'll stick with it in the future. I expected more out of the Jericho MJF, and I'm kind of pooping on everybody's performances, but I'm sorry. I guess maybe the fact that CM Punk was on the show, I guess that was enough to, get people. That really drew the people in, and that's why everybody was buzzing about the show, and just about everybody and their mothers knew Bryan Danielson was showing up. And I was surprised that Adam Cole showed up on the pay-per-view, but AEW never disappoints, seemingly, with their pay-per-views. They announced their next one will be Full Gear, which originally was going to happen Saturday night, November 6th, but it's been pushed to Saturday night, November 13th. I believe it's in St. Louis, Missouri. And, it'd be great to see where things go from here in terms of AEW as a product. Of course, my main complaint about AEW pay-per-views is that the shows have a tendency to end at 11:30 or later. All Out 2021 ended at 11:48 p.m. and I'm glad Full Gear will be a Saturday night in November. Even by the time I had to leave to head home, the encore had already started. So, AEW, All Elite Wrestling, All Out 2021, good show. And they really, like I said, because the pay-per-views end late, they should really put time restraints on these matches. You know, it's ridiculous. These pay-per-views end 11:30 or later. I mean, Double or Nothing back in May ended at midnight. And by the way, I'm sorry to say it, folks, but this pay-per-view did not top Double or Nothing back in May. I thought Double or Nothing was a better show. So, but AEW, the good thing about them, they put the emphasis on wrestling, and it's safe to say that AEW does indeed let the wrestling speak.